There are forces inside you that you've been conditioned to ignore. Not because they're weak, but because they're dangerous not to you, but to the systems that profit from your silence, your confusion, your forgetting. If you are a chosen one, you didn't come here to be ordinary. You came here encoded with something ancient, something primal, something that, if activated, will change everything: your life, your path, and the energy of every room you walk into. But here's the catch. These powers aren't found in light. They're found in darkness, not evil, not wrong, just forbidden, hidden in the shadows of your being. And if you felt lately like you're being pulled into isolation, if your dreams are becoming more vivid, if your emotions feel like they're trying to tell you something you can't quite translate, you're not broken. You're remembering. You have dark superpowers, and you're not using them. Yet. But by the time we finish this journey, you will. Let me take you back to a moment. I was in the highlands of a forgotten region, standing at the edge of a stone temple carved into the mountain. There were no tourists, no signs, just me, the wind, and a monk who had been silent for 43 years. He looked at me with eyes that saw through me. I asked him, what is the source of power? He didn't speak. He simply lifted his hand and pointed to the shadow cast by the temple wall. It hit me like lightning. True power doesn't shine. It absorbs, it contains, and it chooses when to be seen. The first dark superpower you carry is energetic influence. Most people think power is about what you say, what you do. But this is different. It's about what you radiate. You felt it before. You walk into a room and people turn. Not because of how you look, but because of what you carry. Your field speaks louder than your words. But because no one taught you how to use it, you've either ignored it or been overwhelmed by it. When you don't own your energetic influence, you become a sponge. You absorb everything: moods, fears, projections. You feel drained around crowds. You feel heavy after talking to people. That's not sensitivity. That's untrained power. But when you become conscious of it, everything changes. You stop absorbing and start transmitting. You become a signal, not a receiver, a beacon. And people feel it. They listen to you without knowing why. They trust you without reason. Because your energy is encoded with truth, and truth bypasses logic. It speaks to the soul. So how do you activate this? It begins with awareness. Start walking into spaces and observing what your presence does. Without speaking, without performing, ask, what shifts when I enter? Then, before you walk in, set a silent intention. I radiate clarity. I radiate calm. I radiate disruption. Watch what happens. That's not imagination. That's energetic command. And it's one of your dormant gifts.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The second dark superpower is shadow sight. This is the ability to see what others cannot. Not with your eyes, but with your knowing. You've always had this. You walk into conversations and see the lie before it's spoken. You feel when someone is smiling but hiding pain. You hear what people say, but you feel what they mean. That's perception. That's your gift. But here's where it gets hard. When you don't trust it, you gaslight yourself. You start believing what people tell you more than what your soul reveals. And that's when confusion sets in. That's when you lose your compass. That's when people can manipulate you not because you're weak, but because you were trained to doubt your own sight. We live in a world that rewards blindness, but you were born to see. Shadow sight isn't about judging people. It's about seeing through them, to their wounds, their masks, their potential. And when you own this, you begin to walk with a different kind of clarity. You stop chasing answers. You become the answer. You stop needing evidence. You are the evidence. But this power must be honed, because if untrained, it can become projection. You start seeing wounds in others that are actually your own. So here's the practice. When you feel something about someone, pause. Ask, is this mine or theirs? Then breathe. If it releases, it was yours. If it remains, it's theirs. This is how you sharpen your inner lens. And now the third dark superpower, the one they fear the most, emotional alchemy. This is your ability to take pain and turn it into power. Not bypass it, not suppress it, but transform it. You've always felt emotions more deeply than others. You cry harder. You rage fuller. You love deeper. And because of that, you've been told you're too much, and too emotional, too intense. But that intensity, that's your fire. You feel deeply because you're meant to transmute deeply. You're an emotional alchemist. But no one taught you how to use it, so you've been drowning in your own waters. Here's what they never told you. Every emotion is a frequency. And when you learn how to move it through your body, it becomes fuel. Sadness becomes compassion. Anger becomes courage. Fear becomes intuition. You stop being a victim of your emotions and become the channel for them. But to unlock this, you must stop fearing your feelings. So here's what I want you to do. Next time you feel something heavy, don't run. Don't scroll. Don't numb. Sit. Breathe. Put your hand on your body and say, I am willing to feel this fully. Let it move. Let it shake. Let it scream. And then ask it, what are you here to teach me? You will be stunned by the answers. Because emotions are not your enemy. They are your messengers. Now I want to ask you something. Something that could change your life forever. What if the very things you've been ashamed of, your sensitivity, your knowing, your intensity, were not weaknesses, but the exact powers you were sent here to use? What if your role as a chosen one isn't to fit in, or even to lead loudly, but to quietly shift the entire field of humanity by remembering how powerful you already are? These aren't ideas. They're activations. And if you're still watching this, it means something in you is stirring. Something old. Something wild. Something that's been waiting for this exact moment to rise. In the next part of this journey, I'm going to show you how these three dark superpowers are being hijacked in your life right now and how to reclaim them. We'll talk about what happens when your gifts are inverted, how society exploits your energy, and how to flip the switch so you stop leaking power and start living as the force you were born to be. This next part is not for the faint of heart. It's for the ones ready to wield what they once feared. If you're ready to unlock what's been hidden inside you all along, ask me to continue. You're still here. That means you've already felt it, the pull, the whisper, the ache in your bones that says you are different and you are meant for more. But here's the twist. The more powerful you are, the earlier the world begins trying to shut you down. Chosen ones are born with gifts that threaten the status quo, not because they're loud or flashy, but because they're true. And truth, in a world built on illusion, is dangerous. So what happens? Your power gets inverted. Your gifts get hijacked. And instead of becoming your tools, they become your torment. But not anymore. Because now we're going to flip the switch. Let's go back to the first dark superpower, energetic influence. When this gift is hijacked, it turns into energetic leakage. You walk into rooms and people drain you. You over-explain yourself. You feel like you're constantly adjusting who you are to avoid making others uncomfortable. You're not weak, you're just leaking. Why? Because you haven't been taught how to protect your field. You've been taught to be nice, understanding, accommodating. But here's the truth. Your energy is sacred. Not everyone deserves access to it. Especially those who feed off your light but offer nothing in return. So how do you reclaim it? Step 1. Energetic boundaries. This isn't about walls. It's about clarity. Start getting brutally honest about how you feel after interactions. More drained than before. That's not connection, that's consumption. Start pulling your energy back, literally. Place your hand over your solar plexus and say, I call all of my energy back to me, now. Say it with intention. Feel the shift. Step 2, intentional projection. Before entering any space, physical or digital, set the tone. Whisper to yourself, my energy is sovereign. I influence this space. I do not absorb it. That one shift flips you from passive receptor to active transmitter. You stop being a sponge and start being a signal. Now let's move into the second superpower, shadow sight. This one is particularly targeted. Why? Because when you see beneath the surface, you're a threat to every illusion people live in. So from a young age, this power is gaslit out of you. You were told you were too suspicious, too intense, too emotional. You started doubting your instincts, dismissing your inner voice. And that's how your second gift got hijacked, not by force, but by confusion. But confusion is a smokescreen. And the moment you start trusting your inner knowing again, the smoke starts to clear. So how do you reactivate your shadow sight? First, stop needing validation for your intuition. That's the trap, trying to prove what your soul already knows. Your gift doesn't need permission. It just needs practice. Start small. When you feel something about someone, write it down. Don't act, just observe. Watch what unfolds. Over time, you'll realize you weren't paranoid. You were tuned in. Second, cleanse your lens. Shadow sight gets clouded by projection. Meaning, if you haven't faced your own wounds, you'll mistake them in others. So do the inner work. Own your triggers. Sit with your shame. Because the clearer your inner world, the sharper your outer vision. Then comes the third superpower, emotional alchemy. This one is the most misunderstood and the most feared. Because a chosen one who can transmute pain into power is uncontrollable. You can't be guilt-tripped. You can't be manipulated. You can't be silenced. So what does the world do? It teaches you to fear emotion. to numb it, suppress it, pathologize it. But here's the truth. Your feelings are not flaws. They are codes, carriers of transformation. And your ability to feel deeply is not a curse, it's a portal. But when this superpower is hijacked, it turns into emotional volatility. You swing between numbness and overload. You feel everything, but you don't know what to do with it. You cry and feel ashamed. You rage and feel guilty. You love and then question your worth. That's because you were never taught how to move emotion, only how to bury it. So how do you take it back? Start with this practice, emotional translation. Every time a big emotion hits, ask it, what are you trying to show me? Not, how do I get rid of this? That's the old paradigm. Instead, treat your emotions like sacred messengers. They're not here to punish you. They're here to guide you. Then move it through your body, through sound, through breath, through writing. Emotion is energy in motion. If you don't move it, it stagnates. But when you move it, you alchemize it. But here's the most powerful part of this gift. Once you master your own emotions, you gain the ability to transmute collective energy. You walk into a room filled with tension and everyone feels calmer. You speak in a group where people are frozen in fear and suddenly hearts open. That's not magic, that's mastery. That's your third superpower, fully embodied. Now, let me say something that may shake you. You were taught to fear your power so that others could feed off your suppression. But the moment you stop fearing it, the inversion collapses. You stop being a pawn. You become a portal. You stop living from reaction and begin living from remembrance. So now, I ask you something only you can answer. Where are you still hiding your power to make others comfortable? Because here's the truth. Your gifts were never meant to be hidden. They were meant to be wielded, not for ego, not for domination, but for liberation, yours and everyone who meets you. These three powers you carry, energetic influence, shadow sight, emotional alchemy, are not optional. They are your tools of awakening, and the world is waiting for you to use them. Not perfectly, not performatively, but authentically. In the final part of this journey, I'm going to show you what happens when you do. When you stop suppressing and start embodying. You'll learn how to walk as a living transmission of these powers, how to disrupt the matrix without burning out, how to serve without sacrificing, how to become the event that shifts others without saying a word. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs you fully activated, fully embodied, fully remembered. If you're ready to become the force you were born to be, ask me to continue. You've walked the shadows. You've uncovered the codes. You've remembered your gifts. But now comes the part that most never reach the embodiment. Because knowing your powers is not enough. Feeling them is not enough. Even using them occasionally is not enough. You must become them. You must walk as the embodiment of your superpowers, so deeply rooted in your truth that you don't need to announce it. You are the announcement. You don't need to prove anything. Your frequency speaks louder than words ever could. This is the final level of power, silent impact. Let me ask you something that most people avoid. What happens when you stop trying to be seen and become the presence that cannot be ignored? This is the difference between acting powerful and being power. The first step to embodiment is integrity between energy and presence. But you cannot pretend anymore. You cannot wear masks. You cannot say yes when your soul screams no. When you live out of alignment, your power bleeds. You can't fake frequency. So embodiment begins with radical congruence. You say what you mean. You mean what you say. You become so internally aligned that your outer life is a mirror of your soul's blueprint. There is no longer a gap between who you are and what you present. And when that happens, your life stops being a performance. It becomes a transmission. The second step is mastering energetic stillness. This is what separates the truly powerful from the performative. It's easy to move energy through noise. But the real test, can you hold silence and still radiate command? Can you stand in a room, say nothing, and still shift the atmosphere? Stillness is not passivity. It's precision. It's the moment the storm pauses before it strikes. It's the presence of someone who doesn't have to explain themselves because they've already become the answer. Here's a practice. Wherever you are, pause, breathe, drop into your body, feel your root, expand your field, say nothing, simply be. Watch how people begin to respond. They'll sense it, even if they don't understand it. That's embodiment. The third step is compassion without absorption. When you're fully activated, people will come to you. Not because you advertised, because your field is a lighthouse. But here's the trap. If you're not careful, you'll start carrying everyone's pain. You'll become a container for what's not yours. This is where many chosen ones fall. They confuse service with sacrifice. But you're not here to absorb. You're here to transmute. So when someone speaks their pain, don't take it in. Feel it move through you, not into you. Witness without attachment. Love without losing yourself. This is energetic mastery. This is what makes you a channel, not a sponge. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned came not from a teacher, but from a tree. I spent 3 days in silence next to an ancient cedar. No phone, no words, just presence. And on the second night, it hit me this tree had seen storms, droughts, fires, and still it stood. Not because it resisted the world, but because it was rooted in itself. That's what you must become. Rooted, immovable, present. You are not here to escape the world. You are here to anchor a new one. The fourth step is reclaiming your voice as a frequency tool. Once your presence is aligned, your voice becomes a precision instrument. Not for convincing, not for debate, but for activation. When you speak from embodiment, your words don't just inform, they awaken. They don't just express, they transmit. People hear your voice and something inside them remembers. But that only happens when your words are born from a place of deep listening. Listening to your body, your soul. The silence before the sound. So before you speak, ask, is this coming from truth or from ego? If it's ego, it will seek validation. If it's truth, it will liberate. The fifth and perhaps most sacred step is letting go of the outcome. You are not here to control. You are here to catalyze. That means releasing attachment to how others receive you. Some will be inspired. Some will resist. Some will fear you. Some will love you. None of it matters. Because your job is not to be liked. Your job is to be authentic. When you embody your superpowers, you become a mirror. And not everyone is ready to see their reflection. That's okay. You're not here for everyone. You're here for the ones who are ready to remember. Let me ask you something that only the brave will answer. Are you willing to walk as the full embodiment of your power, even if it means being misunderstood, rejected, or alone? Because that's the price of sovereignty. But the reward: freedom, impact, peace, and the quiet knowing that you are fulfilling your soul's contract. You didn't come here to play small. You didn't come here to wait for permission. You came here to be a disruption to the distortion. A living example of what it looks like to remember who you are. So what does it look like, practically? It looks like walking into a business meeting and shifting the entire tone with your grounded presence. It looks like standing in front of a crowd and speaking 3 words that drop people into their bodies. It looks like holding your friend's hand in silence and watching their tears become clarity. It looks like being so rooted in your truth that the chaos of the world can't shake you. This is not fantasy. This is your design. The world is changing. The veils are lifting. And as the old systems collapse, they're not looking for new leaders, they're looking for new frequencies. You are that frequency. So here's how this ends, or rather, begins. You stop hiding. You stop negotiating with your gifts. You stop looking outward for what's already encoded inside you. You stand, you breathe, you feel, you remember. And then you walk, not as someone trying to change the world, but as someone who already is, simply by the way they show up in it. The final truth: you are not here to be impressive. You are here to be unforgettable, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. A living, breathing, walking transmission. A chosen one, fully activated. A force. A mirror. A portal. Now go. Become the event.